The Monday immediately following the conclusion of the NFL regular season is always one of the more intriguing ones and more noteworthy ones. That is a day where a number of coaches are given their walking papers, told their services are no longer needed, and they are sent to the land of gainful unemployment. Not a pleasurable day. I mean, I don't get satisfaction out of seeing people lose their jobs. Now, I know these coaches are paid nice salaries, and, it's a business. If you're not getting the job done, it's like anywhere else. You're going to be replaced. I get it. But again, these are human beings first and foremost, so I certainly don't get my kicks out of seeing anybody get fired. But it is the nature of the machine. However, a lot of teams decide they don't want to wait that long to get their offseason started. Some will get the ball rolling during the season. This year, we've seen 3 teams kick off their festivities. Carolina started it off by realizing and putting a stop to their $60 million mistake with Matt Rule, realizing that he was Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, Bobby Petrino, the latest long list of coaches who were great in college, and I have no doubt that Rule will succeed again at University of Nebraska on a very high level, but just can't cut the mustard in the National Football League. The Jimmy Johnsons, the Jim Harbaughs, the Bobby Rosses, and way back in the day, the Paul Browns are few and far between. You get far more that fall flat on their ass because the games are totally different, even though that gap is narrowing. They sent him packing. Indianapolis decides to move on from Frank Reich, even though I'm going to point blank say it was not all Reich's fault that their front office basically saddled them with 4 different quarterbacks after Andrew Luck's sudden retirement that were either dilapidated career backups or not very good. I mean, look, if you get Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers in 2014, this is a grand slam. You're getting them in 2019 and 2022, yeah, not so much. Or 2020 and 2022, if you will. Again, my point stands. Yesterday, the Denver Broncos jumped into the mix by firing their first-year head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, just 15 games into his tenure. Now, I'm not going to come on here and stick up for Hackett and say he was a great coach, a good coach, a promising coach, any of the above. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was given a raw deal. He wasn't. It became very obvious within 3 weeks, and I may be giving him 2 weeks leeway, that he was in over his head. There is the adjustment period to go from coordinator to coach. I get that. But Hackett never got it. He looked swamped. He looked lost. He looked just completely out of his element. His clock management skills were embarrassing. The team looked undisciplined. They looked unmotivated. It was a lost cause from the get-go. And he looked like a guy who should have never even got an interview to be a head coach, let alone hired. Now, that's not to knock him. I mean, look, a lot of coordinators make that jump and fall flat on their ass, okay? You get the Sean McVays. You get the Kyle Shanahans. You get the Zach Taylors who eventually turn it around. But there's also a lot of ones that don't. There's a lot of Matt Patricias, or really any of the coaches that come off the Belichick coaching tree. I mean, there are a lot of Anthony Lynn's. I could go down the list. My point is, it's a crapshoot when you hire a coordinator. It's a crapshoot when you hire anybody. That's the nature of this beast. So, Hackett, he'll go back to being a coordinator. Maybe not next year, maybe the following year, but he will succeed. The problem is, it just wasn't a fit. You got a rhythm-oriented offensive mind that had Russell Wilson, who is completely opposite. It's detrimental to what his skill set is. Square peg, round hole. Expectations were sky high for the Broncos, and Hackett fell way short of them. So, kudos to the Broncos. I'm going to say this, and this is a wake-up call because this is the second straight year we've seen teams move on from their first-year head coach before their first season even came to an end. Now, in Urban Meyer's case, this guy was a disaster on the field and embarrassment off of it. Hackett at least carried himself with professionalism, dignity, and pride off the field. He did nothing to disgrace the organization off of it. He just wasn't equipped to be a head coach. Happens a lot. But the point of the matter is, the days of these coaches having grace periods of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even one full season are done. You don't get the job done, get out of the way. You will be replaced, and quickly. Ask Hackett. Even if you do fine off the field, if you're not ready for it, they're going to move on. Teams do not have time. They do not have patience. They do not have tolerance to wait and see if the light bulb's going to go off. Some might. Cincinnati gave Zach Taylor, 3 seasons? And it turned around. It did. Now, granted, some kid by the name of Burrow and some receiver by the name of Chase and Higgins, another one, really helped his elevation, but you get my drift. Some, though, a lot of teams, they're not going to play around. They're not going to waste time, especially after what we've seen with Jacksonville. Jacksonville was a mess. Jacksonville was the worst team in the National Football League for 3 years in running. Their last 2 years of Doug Marrone were horrifying. I mean, they bottomed out. Won, 2 games? 3 total? Urban Meyer got in there and won 2, but that's the only thing he did right. Everything else was a fucking joke, a fiasco. Everything that could have gone wrong with Urban Meyer from day one did. Then you get Doug Peterson in there, who saw a rise in Philadelphia, led the Eagles to a Super Bowl victory. The Eagles. But his fall was just as quick. Did the Eagles pull the trigger way too soon? I don't know. They're continuing on just fine with Nick Sirianni. They're a Super Bowl contender this year, and that team is drastically different from the one we saw that won a Super Bowl. Coach down the line. I mean, both quarterbacks are long gone from that organization. But my point is, Peterson catches on in Jacksonville. The Jaguars have won more games this year than they've won since 2017 combined. Think about that. Not only are they a viable playoff team at this point, there's a very strong chance they're going to win the AFC South. In Doug Peterson's first year, there were people who were thinking, ignorantly and stupidly, I will say that Trevor Lawrence was a lost cause after his first year. Nobody was going to succeed in that dumpster fire under Urban Meyer. I will say that right now. Not Montana, not Marino, not Elway, not Brady. The greatest of quarterbacks that ever walked planet Earth were going to fail under similar circumstances, bar none. However, Peterson's come in there and he has unleashed Trevor Lawrence. Shown why this guy was the most coveted draft pick since Andrew Luck. Maybe even more coveted than Luck. Maybe even more coveted because this guy won natties. Okay? Luck never won a natty. Luck never played in a natty. And now the Jags are churning. And they're built to sustain. Again, sometimes you got to bite the bullet and say, we fucked up and we made a bad hire. It's time to move on and get somebody else. And my hope is the Broncos can do that. Is it going to be easy? No. This is a tough job, man. This is a very, very difficult job to fill. Number one, their cap space sucks. Okay, they spent a lot of money on Russell Wilson and re-signing him. And Wilson did not look good this year at all. He looked terrible. And you could sit there and say it's Nathaniel Hackett's offense, square peg, round hole, rhythm offense. Russell Wilson's not that guy. Look, Russell Wilson's 34 years old. This isn't some rookie. This isn't some noob that needs to readjust, okay? Russell Wilson at this point in his career should be able to adapt and make his own ways. Bottom line, Russell Wilson looks like he's toast. And the Broncos are on the hook for that contract. Nobody's taking that off their hands. No one. And they gave up a ton of draft capital. They don't have a draft pick this year. That top 10 pick would look nice. They don't have it. They managed to recoup a lower first-round pick in the Bradley Chubb trade, but they had to give up a valuable asset to do it. I mean, this team's a mess. And they're in a monster of a division. Hey, look, Kansas City and Patty Mahomes aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Neither are the Chargers and Justin Herbert. They're only going to continue to rise. I mean, they're just at the apex. I mean, can you even say they're at their apex? I don't. I think that they've got another 10, 12 years of this, unless the unforeseen happens, God willing. It doesn't. So, you're in a monster of a division. The Raiders, let's forget about them. They're a quality, competent head coach away from being just as good. And I'm sorry, Raider fans, it's not Josh McDaniels. He sucked in Denver, 12 years ago. I don't know why everybody thought things were going to be different after, spending a year in St. Louis where he was ho-hum, mediocre. He goes back under the Belichick coaching umbrella, and suddenly he's this genius again. No, he sucks as a fucking coach. That's just the bottom line. He is not a good head coach. None of the Belichick disciples are. And don't give me this Mike Vrabel shit, okay? Mike Vrabel played. He never coached under Belichick. There's a big difference. Mike Vrabel is more of a disciple of Urban Meyer than he is of Bill Belichick. Only disciple that actually amounted to a pound of shit that came under the Belichick coaching tree might be Bill O'Brien. And look at the Texans now. They're a fucking dumpster fire. So, why anybody thought things would be different this time with Josh McDaniels, I don't know. Maybe he's not the egomaniac he was when he was the head coach of the Broncos, ironically enough. 12 years ago when he drafted Tim Tebow and the late Demaryius Thomas. One of them worked out greatly. The other one did not. But nothing changed. He's still a shitty coach. So, but again, once the Raiders get themselves a head coach, it's not Josh McDaniels, they will be right up there as a lethal team. So, my point is, this Denver job is tough. Anybody thinks you're getting Sean Payton, I'm sorry, you're not. I don't want to be the guy who pisses on your parade, but look, there are other jobs available that are very appealing. Arizona's appealing, okay? If he could reel in Kyler Murray and get him to get his head out of his ass. Okay? Indianapolis. They're a quarterback away from being a playoff team. They've got a great running back in Jonathan Taylor. They've got two excellent wide receivers. I mean, I think Michael Pittman has potential to be one of the best receivers in the National Football League once he gets a competent quarterback throwing him the football. And I'm not talking Carson fucking Wentz. Okay? I'm not talking Matt Ryan, who looked completely one flew over the cuckoo's nest shot last year, okay? I like Alec Pierce. I like Paris Campbell. That is a solid team. Their offensive line might need a piece or two, but you've got two really good ones in there. So the defense is solid. The defense is really solid. And that division sucks. I mean, that division sucks. Look how quick it took Jacksonville to get, from rags to riches. You ain't going to tell me Indianapolis can't do the same shit with a quarterback? Whether it's Anthony Richardson or, C.J. Stroud or Will Levis or whoever the hell they draft. They're not far away from being a playoff contender. They're close. They need a coach. They need a quarterback. So, if I'm Sean Payton, that looks a hell of a lot better to me than Denver does. We don't know what other jobs might be available at this point. I mean, Carolina. They're willing to throw the bag. That division sucks, too. I mean, realistically speaking, that division's horse shit. He gets in there and gets himself a quarterback. They've got some pieces to play around with. DJ Moore, another criminally underrated wide receiver. Solid young defense. That division's winnable. Tom Brady's 46 years old. He looks like he's done, finally. I think Todd Bowles is I'm not sure what he is as a head coach. Atlanta's a mess. The Saints are a mess. Look, there are two jobs right there that are immediately right now better than Denver. Arizona, I think, is potentially better than Denver. So, Denver's in for it. This is a tough road to hoe. They got to do better than Nathaniel Hackett, though. This is George Patton's job riding on the line. He cannot whiff with this hire. And I'm going to tell you right now, they need to get somebody with coaching experience because Super Bowl 50 seems like a lifetime ago. It really does. But since then, they've had Vance Joseph, who flopped. They've had Vic Fangio, who flopped. And then they had the biggest disaster of them all, who was with Hackett, who bombed. Two defensive guys and an offensive mind, all who tanked. Denver's got to go get out there and get somebody with experience that knows how to run a team, because this going for the coordinator route is not doing the job. Who that is, I don't know. Like I said, they're not getting Sean Payton. I'm sorry, that's not happening for a number of reasons. It's a tough job. He's going to want full control. They're going to fire George Patton. Oh, by the way, they got some guy by the name of Fangio that's going to be on his staff. Good luck selling Vic Fangio to come back to Denver. So it's going to be a tough sell. Who takes the job? Who could they throw it to? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. We will talk again soon.